In this episode, we're going to take a look at some forgotten 80s board games that were based on cartoons. So, stick around. Dorks and Dorkettes, and welcome to Nostalgia Syndrome. My name is Rob. This is a puppy with abandonment issues that, I can't even get a second to film. I gotta hold her, gotta pet her, but that's okay. She's awfully cute. So anyway, in this episode we're going to be looking at forgotten 80s board games that were based on 80s cartoons. Now, I think using the term board game might be stretching it, but they're all within the same genre, the same vein. Sitting around the table, playing a game with your friends and family, having a good time. So, with that being said, let's get to number one. Our first game actually comes from a cartoon series that I'm kind of embarrassed to say that I loved. I tuned in every Saturday for it, and it was the Mr. T cartoon. This is a card game that was produced by Milton Bradley in 1983. As we can see here, all the cards featured great artwork from the cartoon show, featuring all the different characters. The idea of this game is to play it like War, just with a few twists and turns thrown in. All the players would be dealt the entire deck evenly, and they would put the deck face down in front of them, their own personal deck that is, and they would draw the first three cards, and those would be the ones that you would play on this little game mat, kind of like War. Whoever has the highest card wins. Once you lose all your cards in this one-up style War type of scenario, you lose the game. But there's a super mega powerful card, the Mr. T card. No matter what you play it on, you win automatically. Apropos, it's Mr. T after all. Our second board game comes from Milton Bradley in the year 1980, and it's based on the Hanna-Barbera cartoon Captain Caveman and the Teen Angels. Now, this is a pretty rudimentary board game. You spin the spinner and you move whatever amount of spaces it tells you to go. You land on these larger numerical circles, and those coincide with a trouble card. Now, I have to say, I have no idea what the trouble cards actually do for the game, but they feature things like the van gets a flat tire, Taffy's Daffy plan fails, Dee Dee gets captured by crooks, things like that. Captain Caveman lost his club. That's another one. So I'm not really sure how those trouble cards work to the game. Like, do you move back spaces or do you lose a turn? I don't know. But it's a very simple game. You get to the end of the board, you win. Now, you play as Captain Caveman and the three teen angels, Dee Dee, Daffy, and Brenda. And the game pieces feature great artwork from the show. Now, as a kid, I loved Captain Caveman. I don't really remember this cartoon per se. I think I caught a bunch of them on Boomerang much later. But yeah, I was always a fan of him and the wacky races and things like that. So this game would probably be pretty cool as a collectible if you're a Captain Caveman fan. But as a game, I really don't think that you'd be missing out if you'd never played it. Our next game is another card game by Milton Bradley. This time released in 1985, and this was for the Wuzzles cartoon. Now, from what I can read, The game sounds like it plays a lot like Go Fish, because you are trying to get 3 matching cards. And once you get 3 matching cards, they allow you to move your token on the game board. Now, in order to get these cards, you can either ask another player if they have them, like Go Fish, or from a deck. You pull a random card from the top. The game board features just nice, vivid artwork of the island where the Wuzzles live. I'm sure it has a name, I just can't remember it at the moment. And the cards featured nice, brightly colored artwork of the characters from the cartoon. And it looks like there's a number at the top of each card that probably coincides with how many spaces you can move on the game board. Now, this is the best of both worlds. It's a card game and a board game, and it's the Wuzzles. I mean, sounds like a really good match made in heaven. Our 4th board game comes from Masters of the Universe, and this is Snake Mountain Rescue, released by Mattel in 1985. Now, this game is a lot like the game of Operation. There's different character cards, and you need to use a special sword to try to get the card out of its little hidey hole. If you touch the sides, Skeletor will pop up and your card is eaten. So, just like the game of Operation, instead of a buzzer going off, Skeletor comes out and eats your card. That's pretty awesome. Now, can't find a ton of information about this game at the moment, but for right now, I mean, the only pictures I can really find are of the box itself. So, I don't know what characters were included on the cards, but from what I can see, they all look pretty awesome. But I don't know if there's more than just what's on the box. I hope there is, because there's such a rich and deep tapestry of Masters of the Universe characters that they could pull from. Our final forgotten 80s board game, based on cartoons, comes from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. This is the Pizza Power game, released by Milton Bradley in 1987. Now, this game, the whole point of it is to defeat the bad guys and get to the Terrordrome and recover the secret mutagen. I mean, one thing I want to point out is I love this artwork. It's such a neat amalgam of the cartoon and the comic book. This looks a lot like Michael Dooney's art, who was one of the artists on the later Turtle comics. I don't know if it is, but it just kind of has that feel to me. I mean, look at the artwork that is on the game board itself. Let's take a look at each one of these in a little bit more detail. Now, how you play the game is you have a little spinner and it tells you where to go on the game board, or if you lose a good guy card. Not really sure about the good guy or bad guy cards. Hopefully I can find some pictures of those to throw up here to see what they are exactly. Once you encounter a bad guy and need to fight them, you have this little seesaw type contraption that you would put a dice in, and it allows you to flip the dice to land it in one of the 3 other compartments of it. And depending on where it lands is, I guess, the damage to the bad guy, or it's a one-hit kill, or what have you. Not 100% sure, but it's a kind of neat game dynamic that they added to just spice things up a little bit. I wouldn't mind having this little seesaw contraption for when I run my D&D games. Anyway, like I said, I'm a huge fan of this artwork because it's a really cool amalgam of the classic style from the comics and the new style from the cartoon. I mean, this is pretty early on in the whole Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the cartoon and the fandom. So yeah, I love this time period because they seem to be kind of figuring out how they wanted to go forward with Yeah, I had a poster from this time period on my wall, and it featured the comic book artwork, but they recolored the bandanas and everything to make it look like the cartoon. So, like, yeah, that kind of transition period I find really fascinating. Anyway, this game looks super cool and probably is a really nice addition to any collector's collection. Okay folks, that was a look at 5 forgotten 80s board games that are based on cartoons. And I forgot to add it at the beginning of the episode, but of course this is still Forgotten February. So yeah, taking a look at all those forgotten gems from yesteryear. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this episode. It is probably a pretty short one once I edit it down because, I mean, don't have a lot to say because I never had the opportunity to play any of these games. So I'm just looking at them as a casual observer and seeing how cool they were. Mostly for the artwork and mostly for the nostalgia. Some of them probably weren't that fun to play, but pretty fun to look at. Anyway, like I said, I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. If you got something to say, please leave a comment. I love reading them, and I love getting back to everyone. And if you're new around here and you enjoyed this, or any of the episodes that YouTube is recommending down here, please hit subscribe. And if you hit that little bell icon, you'll be notified whenever there's new episodes. So anyway, until next time, thanks for watching. Keep being rad, and stay dorky.